Phil Bennett, longtime college football coach, joins us on Mondays in the 5 o'clock hour, and he's out. There he is, out in that unbelievable, beautiful backyard with the pool, the outdoor kitchen, the sunglasses on. What a smile. If you were to cook something, would it be steaks if that was your go-to? Would it be lobster tails, grilled shrimp? What would it be?
You know, when you come down here and finally keep your word and play golf with me at Miramont, I'm going to cook you the finest tenderloin you've ever eaten.
Wow, I look forward to that. That sounds good to me.
I'm just going to go with you and hang out at the pool while you guys golf.
Well, you can do that.
Yeah, I'll just be there. If there's beer there, I'm good.
You'll have to deal with my dogs.
Oh, that's fine.
There's my girl right there.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
Man's best friend.
I found her 4 years ago. She was a little bitty pup. Some student I was on my bicycle and had left her out with a 2,000 buffaloes. So we saved her.
Oh, wow. Holy cow.
That's awesome.
That is great. That is great. So, Phil, the best game I thought of the week was UCF and TCU. Yeah. And UCF gutted it out after a really kind of bad first half, came back and won that game. And I left that game thinking these are two teams that can probably hang with everybody in the Big 12 and could contend for being in Arlington at the end of the year.
I would agree with that. You know, I just had a sense during the game, you could see Gus's frustration really on both sides of the ball. They were so close to taking the lead, and TCU was doing some nice things. You just knew the game, there was plays to be made in that fourth quarter. The last drive, you know, the quarterback got better and better and better. And when TCU missed a couple of scoring opportunities, you could sort of sense that gave UCF the energy to go down and take the game. And that's exactly what they did.
Coach, do you have anything to compare Arch Manning Mania to? I mean, you talk about a storybook, just kind of a few moments that we've seen with this young man, and then the latest one on Saturday was really just another incredible chapter in what is a very young story still, but can you kind of compare it to anything?
Well, you could go back, you know, I can't really just point it out. I guess what you could say is back in the day, you know, when everybody started playing freshmen, I think that you anoint kids too fast. What I like about Arch is he's been steadfast that he wanted to be at Texas, and he has waited his time. And, you know, I think the book is not written yet. How good he could be, you know, we just like right now, we want to put Texas at number one. They're going to win it. I don't see them being a dominating team. I said this earlier. I think they're a good team. I think they played Michigan, who was very average, might be 6-6. And I think, David, you know this. Our boy down in Coach Roart down in UTSA, they're down. They're not where they've been. So I still think he's a great player. I can't exactly compare anybody with him to this point, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
We brought this up to Gary Barnett, who joined us earlier, and then J.J. Joe, who played the position, Baylor Radio, about Sawyer Robertson. Baylor had the turnovers in the first half that kept that game kind of dangerous against Air Force. And then they just, imposed their will in the second half. Robertson seemed to handle the game, manage the game, and was efficient. DeQuan Finn, according to Dave Aranda today, was back at practice. How do you as a coach juggle what you do? Because you have a young man that seemed like he gave him a spark, with all due respect to DeQuan.
I think, first of all, you know, it's anytime you're in that leadership role, the hardest thing is doing what's best for the whole and not the few. You know, they have a situation here at A&M. They started a backup quarterback, lit it up, has played probably better than the starter ever has. But I think you get the feel. I think the people that are in charge will see and get do the measuring, and maybe, there's that old saying. And I worry about this sometimes. They say if you've got two quarterbacks, you don't have any. But there's times that there is a place for playing two guys and try to use that spark. So I'm sure they'll look at the right one.
Phil, on Marcel Reed and A&M, has he potentially Wally pipped Connor Wegman?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. He was so smooth. The moment wasn't too big. I really thought that being at Florida, we were going to see, and I thought Colin put him in some very good situations. They used his movement. The thing that impressed me more than anything is he was like Robert Griffin. Robert had a great ability to extend plays, yet keep his eyes downfield and still be able to throw the football. And I think Marcel did that Saturday.
Coach, your thoughts on Tennessee and Oklahoma coming up this week? First time that Oklahoma's had game day in like over 10 years or whatever. First SEC game. Heupel coming back to Norman. What are your thoughts on Vols and Sooners?
I'm very good friends with a lot of them. Of course, Seth and Heupel were teammates. They were in each other's wedding. You're going to have Seth as offensive coordinator, and you're going to have Heupel as the head coach. I'm sure all Stoops will be there. I really believe that I think OU's pretty good on defense. My concern is that Brent has struggled with tempo offenses, a la Art Briles. And that concerns me a little bit. He wants the perfect play where when you play a tempo offense, you've got to get lined up, and you might not be able to be as deep in your playbook as you would like, but you can get lined up, they'll have a chance. And I think Seth is smart enough. They've got to run the ball, and I like their matchup. Tennessee hasn't played a really good offense yet, and I think they can move the ball. And I think for Oklahoma to stay in it and have a chance, they're going to have to slow the game down a little bit.
Coach, have you seen anything that's a trend in college football this year that sticks out? There's always something. Coaches are always tinkering. There's always something a little bit different. Anything in particular you kind of notice as an X's and O guy?
The one thing I have noticed, I'm seeing a lot more in passing downs. I'm seeing a lot more 30 front, 3-man fronts with a lot of things you see in the NFL with a lot of people being deep. And obviously, quarterback, if you watch Washington State, that's what Tech tried to do against them, the quarterback rush for 200 yards. But I've seen more of that.
Coach, Dan Tunlan has taken over as defensive coordinator at USC, and Alex Grinch just could never point them in the right direction. They were struggling. They were terrible. They go to the Big House this week and take on Michigan, and their defense early on looks like it's for real, and he didn't really change the talent. He changed the scheme a lot, and they clearly made a difference in what they were doing conditioning-wise or developmentally for these guys. What do you think is the thing that flipped the switch for them? Is it just the change in coach, or do the players have to kind of realize they need to make a change too?
I've always said this. Coaching matters. David's heard me say it many times. How you approach it, what you do, your schematics, your techniques, it can change it for you. Now, Coach Lynn has done a great job, but what a lot of people fail to realize is the head coach at North Dakota State is now on the defensive staff at USC also, as I think he's associate head coach in charge of defense. He is an excellent football coach. And I think between them, they're sounder, both in schematics and techniques, and you can tell that. I see today where Michigan's changing quarterbacks. I've said this, and that's why I think Texas probably deserves at this point to be number one. But there's been no tests there. I think you're going to see Michigan maybe a 5-7 or 6-16, and that win won't be what we thought it was originally. And I would be surprised if USC didn't go up there and play really well the way their offense is played and have a big day.
There's a big game in the Big 12 with Utah traveling to Stillwater to take on Oklahoma State and create a little bit of separation there in the standings. You're no stranger to Stillwater or Mike Gundy. I don't know how familiar you are with Kyle Whittingham and those guys, but your thoughts on playing there, the difficulties in that, but also just a matchup between two long veteran coaches who are, I would think both of them are up there as far as the longest tenured guys in the country right now.
They have to be, and both of them are excellent coaches. It's crazy. I'm telling my age. I can still remember when I was the defensive coordinator, like in 85 or 86, Thurman Thomas and Mike Gundy and Hartley Dykes beat us on the last play of the game in Stillwater. A pass from Mike Gundy to Hartley Dykes. And, of course, when we were at Baylor, they were a nemesis until we finally beat them that cold night. If you guys remember up there, we ended up losing our quarterback, and Chris Johnson goes in, and we played very well and beat them. So, Oklahoma State is tough to beat at home. Utah and what they have done, I think he might be the longest tenured coach. Both of them are excellent coaches, and Utah will bring a lot of people. They're used to winning. They can win on the road. I've played both of them. I played them when I was at Pitt out there. When I was at Arizona State, I think they were number 5 or 6 in the country. We beat them out there and beat them soundly, but they're a very well coached team, and it should be a heck of a game. I'm interested to see if Oklahoma State can play better defense than they did against Arkansas at home this week.
So your former team, Kansas State, you mentioned Stillwater when you were at Baylor, but K-State roasted Arizona. That was a, kind of a tight game. Then all of a sudden they do what they do. My God, nobody's ever done special teams better than back when Snyder started that, and they still do it. The punt return and ended up coasting in that game. Your thoughts about the Wildcats? That was impressive.
Now, you know who the guy was that ran the kickoff back, don't you?
The kid from Colorado, right?
Colorado. And his dad played for us at K-State.
Okay.
So, and he transferred there. They're grinders, and they always have enough skill. Their running back, their quarterback. Defensively, they've been very impressive. I thought Arizona, has really they have a receiving group, and I really thought K-State was impressive. And when the game, and using the term, as the game went on, they kept grinding it. They've got a great running game. They've got really good receivers, and their special teams has always been outstanding.
What is the commitment? Does every staff commit to special teams, or do enough of them commit enough to special teams?
Well, it's obvious to me that the great ones, one of the things I remember at K-State, and this goes back to Bill Snyder, I mean, it truly was a third of the game. I mean, you didn't take if you were a start, hey, it was an honor to be on the special teams. And we led. I coached, and here I was the defensive coordinator. I was the return guy. I coached Aaron Lockett, David, both of them were NCAA champions. Not because of me, but they led the NCAA in punt returns and kickoff returns. I remember a big deal. Aaron Lockett, coach didn't think Eric could be a punt returner. I said, Coach, let me try to have him. And David Allen led the nation the year before in punt returns, and we ended up, and Aaron broke his record the next year. And we spent a lot of time at it, and it was game changers for us.
Paul, you've always thought.
Yes.
I'm going to let you bring this up.
Okay.
All right.
I think one of my criticisms of the staff at Baylor when you were there was that it didn't seem like Art cared as much about special teams as other coaches, and it cost you in some games. I
would agree with that.
Okay.
And I'm not being critical. I just think that and there's so many things he did above other people.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember I tell people this, and when I write my book, I'm going to tell them. He said, I'm not changing. First thing he told me, he said, Bennett, I just think you're egotistical enough, smart enough. You could stop them regardless of what I do on offense. I'm not changing. And you know what? I want to tell you something. I was okay with it when he told me 5 things to fill out. I shook him up when I filled it out. I said, I'm picking the players. I'm picking but that's one of the things we shared responsibility on certain aspects of special teams. Now we had some guys that were good specialists, but I would think we could have done, and I think Art might tell you, there were a couple of times, that we could have done a better job. Obviously, what comes to mind was the Cotton Bowl on the onside kick. We had a couple of those things, and I'm not blaming anybody because I was a part of it, but I wouldn't disagree with what you were saying.
Phil, you have the beautiful background. Are you going to a game at all this weekend? I know you catch a game whenever you can. I mean, you're right there in the backyard of a 100,000+ stadium at Kyle Field.
I get invited every week to sit in a box or go some places. I'm actually going dove hunting.
Okay.
My college roommate is the owner of a group of restaurant, Wings and More, and he has a place down near Tilden, and we do it once a year. And I promised him, and we go down there. It's good camaraderie and have a lot of fun.
Hey, thanks for the knowledge. As always, it's great to see you, man. Appreciate your time.
Guys.
Thank you.
We'll talk next week.
Yes, sir. Phil Bennett.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, Paul, you've always said that, but we never actually brought it up about the special teams.
I'm always confident in Phil to be straight with me. I was a little worried we'd get in a debate, but thank you for teeing it up diplomatically, because it did used to watching games. I'd be like, God, they lost. They didn't lose many games in that run. They were very, very good. But it seemed like when they did lose games, that was often a factor.